When one becomes the Home Minister of India, he or she becomes the most important head of India's internal security apparatus. Be it preventing terror attacks in the country, fighting terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, or destroying Naxalism in the Red Corridor, the expectations from a Home Minister are that our lives will be saved and our country will be saved by a diligent leader. But what if, despite all the resources at his disposal, this leader is least interested in securing India? Unfortunately, we have had many such disastrous home ministers in the past, and we must talk about it with the hope that people like them never take the office again. Hi and welcome. This is TFI English, the national and socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Tribhuvan, and in this video, I will tell you all about the worst home ministers India ever had. Let's begin. A country's home minister is supposed to be the first line of defense who keeps the country's intelligence, soldiers and other armed forces on the front foot so that the enemies cannot penetrate the country. In the off chance they do, it is the duty of the home minister to hold the fort and ensure that the country retaliates and gives it back in kind. However, over the years, India has had the disappointment of producing several below par home ministers who have brought the shame to the ministry. Here we have compiled a list of top 5 in no particular order of the worst home minister India ever had. Shivraj Patil will probably go down in the history books as one of the most incompetent home ministers the country has ever had the misfortune of producing. He handled all important ministry during the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. To this date, it is alleged that NSG, also known as National Security Guard Commandos, were deployed late into the mission, all because they had to wait for Shivraj Patil to board the same aircraft, in addition to the time-consuming logistical constraints. According to top Congress sources, even after the plane had taken off from Chandigarh to Delhi, it got delayed. The NSG commandos quickly took their position but had to wait for Patil, who was going to Mumbai on the same plane. It is not clear for how long the commandos had to wait in the plane for Patil to turn up, but sources said that all this contributed to the NSG team arriving at 7 a.m. on Thursday, almost 10 hours after the attack began at around 9:25 p.m. on Wednesday. The terrorists had already planted themselves into the spot they were meant to and were terrorizing and killing people with impunity. Only if NSG had landed a few hours early, the casualty number could have been brought down. Moreover, the NSG and apathetic conditions under the UPA and Shivraj rule has been very well documented. Owing to his tardy response during the attacks, Shivraj was soon sacked as the Home Minister, a feat rather unheard in Congress regimes where corruption and lethargy are awarded. P. Chidambaram was an improvement on his weak predecessor, but he polarized Home Ministry to an extent that it became a divisive regional political party, keeping only the interests of the few chosen ones in mind while leaving the rest to fend off for themselves. Congress started the bogus Hindu terrorism conversation in the aftermath of 26/11. P. Chidambaram took it to a crescendo and made it his life mission to denigrate the Hindu across the country with false accusation and paint them as the new age terrorists. In a briefing to top police officials in 2010, Chidambaram held no pretenses and openly enunciated the term Hindu terrorism. He said there is no let-up in the attempts to radicalize young men and women in India. Besides, there is the recently uncovered phenomena of saffron terrorism that has been implicated in many bomb blasts of the past. My advice to you is that we must remain ever vigilant and continue to build at the central and state levels our capacity in counter-terrorism. Swami Asimanand, a Hindu monk who wears his religion on his sleeve, was targeted by the UPA regime constantly, especially under P. Chidambaram's tenure. Asimanand had launched a movement against conversions in the tribal belt of Gujarat. Originally from Hooghly district, he made the western state his base in late 1990 for a reconversion drive in Dang district to bring tribals back to the Hindu fold. However, as established earlier, UP and Congress were essentially Islamist apologist parties and minority appeasement was their biggest vote generation ploy. Thus, Asimanand was openly made the scapegoat and a means for the UPA and P. Chidambaram to raise the bogey of Hindu terrorism. It was during the Congress-led coalition's tenure that the saffron-clad Swami was falsely dubbed as the mastermind of 3 different bomb blasts in 2007. The Samjhauta Express explosion of February, which took lives of 68 people, the Makkah Masjid, one in May, and the Ajmer Sharif blast in October. However, on April 16, 2018, a special court judge in Hyderabad delivered the verdict stating that the National Investigation Agency had failed to prove the charges against Asimanand. No single charge that the prosecution had leveled against Asimanand could be proved, and the monk was finally acquitted. A Home Minister in the VP Singh cabinet, Mufti Muhammad Saeed, is infamously known for the kidnapping saga involving his daughter. In 1989, Saeed's daughter Rubaiya was kidnapped by the JKLF. However, Saeed, instead of keeping his cool and showing respect for the top post he held, panicked and became over-eager to give in to the demands of the kidnappers that 5 terrorists should be released in spite of knowing that no harm would come to her. The father of one of the kidnappers had reassured the then Farooq Abdullah government that no harm would come to the girl and that the kidnappers were ready to let her go. Despite categorical assurance, Mufti Muhammad Saeed went against the diktat. He seemingly made contact with JKLF kidnappers through a judge, Justice Motilal Bhatt. After the contact was established, Saeed leaked the news that the central government was ready to give in to the demands of the kidnappers and release the 5 terrorists that they wanted to be released. The ineptitude of Mufti Muhammad can be gauged from the fact that the 5 terrorists were released even before his daughter Rubaiya was released. The kidnapping saga was perhaps the point where Islamist terrorists realized that they could dominate the valley. Ultimately, they succeeded and clocked the mass exodus of Kashmiri Pandits from the state and plagued it with terrorism, which is still holding the state back. Former Union Minister Arif Muhammad Khan, who was a part of VP Singh's cabinet, has made similar observations. I have absolutely no doubt that the manner in which the Rubaiya Saeed matter was handled gave a fillip to terrorism. Ahead of the 9th anniversary of the Nirbhaya case, it is imperative that another weak Home Minister of the UPA era, Sushil Kumar Shinde, finds a mention in this illustrious list. Under his tenure, the ghastly, inhumane gang rape took place. However, instead of tightening up the laws and making sure that criminals are not allowed to go scot-free using the loopholes, Shinde did nothing to change it. In the aftermath of the gang rape, a 3-member team headed by retired CGI Verma was formed to examine and suggest changes to the legal framework that would help in clamping down the surging rape incidents. The report was submitted by the committee on January 23, 2013. However, the former CGI revealed that the then Union Home Minister Sushil Kumar Shinde, who had appointed the committee, did not for once interact with the committee. The Congress party was so unconcerned about the committee's report that neither Sushil Kumar Shinde nor Union Home Secretary R.K. Singh were present to accept the report. Instead, the report was accepted by the Joint Secretary in the ministry. Like his predecessors, Shinde also used the Hindu terrorism card to strengthen the minority vote bank for his party. He has openly targeted RSS for running terror camps. In an interview, the former Home Minister remarked, "We have got an investigation report that be it the RSS or BJP, their training camps are promoting Hindu terrorism. We are keeping a strict vigil on all this." Yashwant Rao Chavan was a living example of double standards. If we perceive him with realism, he had all the qualities of an ideal Indian politician. He was infamous for his hypocrisy and double standards. Yashwant Rao served as a Home Minister from 1966 to 1970 for the first time and then 1979 to 1980. Interestingly, he was the Home Minister under Indira Gandhi's cabinet for the first time and served under Indira Gandhi's arch nemesis Chaudhry Charan Singh for the second time. He served as a Home Minister as well as a Vice Prime Minister under both the political leaders. If anyone can compete with Yashwant Rao in taking U-turns and making decisions, they would be Arvind Kejriwal and Kanhaiya Kumar.